Do what you will. Finish what you started on Rebirth Island. My broadcast was complete. I have changed the world, Adler. In ways you can't even imagine.
What's going on, everybody? This is dkdynamite, and tonight we're going to be talking about a really interesting Year 2 update for Cold War, new teasers that dropped today tying into Rebirth, and even more. Definitely stay tuned. But before we jump into that, be sure to hit that subscribe button down below, drop a like, and make sure you have notifications on to stay up to date with everything going on with Cold War Year 2, Vanguard, and the other future Call of Duties as well. Now, a couple of hours ago, Barry Sloan, the actor behind Captain Price and the new Modern Warfare reboot, did put out this tweet, which seemingly hints at Task Force 141 could be first of many viral tweets we get from Barry Sloan, hinting at the Modern Warfare sequel dropping presumably this fall. I think it's crazy that we're already getting some Modern Warfare 2 teasers this early on. I mean, like I said before, the CDL season just started for Vanguard, Rank Play just came out, and Activision's already like, yep, let's go ahead and tease the next Modern Warfare game. So kind of puts in perspective just how Vanguard is performing right now. But with that being said, we also have an update on the Vargo 52, an assault rifle that was somehow unlocked early through doing the challenge in Modern Warfare. And I know I made an update on this in my previous video where I said, look, the challenge looks like it got patched in Modern Warfare, but if you have a loadout with it in Cold War, whether it's multiplayer or zombies, you should still be able to use it. Now, with that though, if you didn't make a loadout with the Vargo, then it's no longer available to select in the assault rifle menu. Hop over into Sniper's Moshpit though, and somehow, just somehow, you're able to still use the Vargo in this mode. Somehow, it's not really registered as a proper weapon in the game and isn't restricted in this Sniper's Only Moshpit. So I felt bad that I equipped it, got a couple of kills in Snipers Only, immediately backed out of the game though, because that's just not right to do. Obviously, Snipers Only is Snipers Only. You shouldn't be able to use an assault rifle, so I'm assuming Treyarch is on top of this and should be fixing this issue over the next couple of days if you guys do have the Vargo unlocked. Now, for any camo progress you did on the weapon, I don't think any of that will be reset, and I'm sure if you have a loadout for this, you'll be able to use this weapon as long as you possibly want. I know Treyarch's also hard at work fixing things with ranked play in Vanguard. They've been doing a great job with communication, and it's crazy how they've communicated more about Vanguard than Sledgehammer has over the past couple of weeks. Super weird to see, but out of the 3 game modes still getting updates in Vanguard, Treyarch's in charge of 2 of them, so I guess that kind of makes sense as to why they're communicating more. But also, we have a PlayStation preload for Warzone update 1.54 that was able to be loaded this afternoon at about, I think, 12 o'clock Central, and according to hackers, nothing really a part of this patch for Warzone aside from bug fixes, so I don't think this actually was the mid-season update for Season 2. Other rumors out there did suggest otherwise, but I personally don't think, because hackers can't access anything new, I just personally don't think that this update was anything really important in terms of new content or any reloaded surprises, if we even get that for Season 2. Now today I noticed they also fixed the inconsistent Battle Pass expiration dates across Vanguard, Cold War, and Warzone. They were all showing different dates, which was really confusing, and there were plenty of conspiracies going around that maybe Vanguard Season 2 will end, but Warzone Season 2 will continue. Lots of confusing theories about what that would have meant if that was somehow tied into a potential early release of Modern Warfare 2, Warzone 2, maybe they want to cut Vanguard short, but now the timer does reflect the exact same expiration date across all 3 Call of Duty titles, 55 days to go, which leaves us with April 26th for the supposed start of Season 3. They could pull Season 1 and just do a mid-season update featuring all the remaining content that was promised on the original roadmap, or they could pull a Cold War where we do get a proper reloaded update as the mid-season update with a new roadmap, surprise DLC, and other content that nobody could have expected. That's still up in the air right now. But what's really interesting is the patch note list we got today for the new changes that came to Warzone. We have the following statement regarding Rebirth. Iron Trials will end up being the final mode for this current Rebirth map, and to consider it an encore. Although it's not the end for Rebirth Island, you may want to drop back in before a familiar foe brings the largest updates to this map since its release. So that's a pretty big tease, and it's still unclear when the big changes are happening to Rebirth. I'm just gonna guess whenever Reloaded or the mid-Season 2 update is, considering in the original Season 2 blog post, we got plenty of teases about something lurking around Rebirth, and my first instinct was, okay, that's probably zombies, right? But if you take a look at where we are in the story right now for the current season, we still know that Butcher is talking to Mason and his crew over in 1984. After the events of Season 6, Mason's crew found Butcher Butcher, and Butcher's been telling them a story ever since. We're just not sure when that story is gonna end, because right now he's telling them a bit of a recap as to what his experience was before the events of the Vanguard campaign, when he was putting together different task forces around the world to close off any remaining Nazi loopholes. Does this mean Butcher needs Mason and his crew? They form a new task force to take down what's left of Perseus? Is there some Reznov tie-in, which would be incredible to see? I mean, something big could be happening here, and I can't say I can complain about Cold War having to carry the rest of Vanguard's post-launch storyline. I'm totally on board with that, and I hope you guys are as well. Now, you probably noticed that the Season 6 outro kind of just cuts off, and then we just move on to this cutscene where Mason and his crew meet Butcher about a couple of days later. So Stitch's fate has been left unknown, and ironically, we have this corrupted Enigma bundle that released once Vanguard already came out, and the gesture a part of this bundle is called Unknown Future. So it's almost like that's Treyarch giving us a hint that, yeah, Stitch's future is unknown, and they intentionally cut the screen to black when we heard that gunshot go off because they didn't want to reveal if Adler had killed Stitch or not. I personally don't think he killed Stitch. I actually believe that there's a lot of material left they can work with for a new Black Ops game where they tell a bit of a sequel story to the events of Cold War and these 6 seasons of DLC. I think a lot of people out there would love to see a continuation of Adler or even Stitch's arc. So what if, and this is a big what if here, what if Stitch actually had some type of fail-safe plan in motion over at Rebirth in the case that his plan got thwarted, in the case that he got killed, and maybe because of Mason and his crew getting the upper hand and taking down Stitch and his team, something is going on at Rebirth now where there are some explosions, a Nova 6 outbreak, some zombies invasion, something could be going on over at Rebirth now, and could also play into the repercussions that Stitch warned Adler about in regards to his numbers broadcast. We know that, yeah, the numbers broadcast was taken care of, but there might be some other broadcasts around the world that Mason and his crew didn't know about, to the point where there are some other enemies lurking in the shadows, as we get the hint of in our Season 2 blog post about Rebirth that does mention there are some other enemies lurking around Rebirth and something big is coming. Now, I also don't think it's an accident that WMD is the first DLC multiplayer map for Year 2. I actually think there could be some story relevance to WMD, considering it's a Soviet facility. Maybe that somehow ties into what's going on over at Rebirth now with Season 2 Reloaded. Lots of possibilities here, but I think all in all, we'll end up getting some type of jump back to present day, and present day as of right now is 1984, where Butcher's talking to Mason and his crew. We might end up getting some actual relevant Year 2 updates to Cold War that tie into what's going on in that new cutscene that we got a couple of months ago. Maybe that's what the actual plan was, and that's why we have a delay with this Year 2 DLC, because it is tied into the story somehow. So as the seasons progress, there'll be some reasoning as to why we get more Cold War content. So I know that might be confusing that this Year 2 Cold War DLC might coincide with the progressing Vanguard narrative. I definitely think it's confusing for a casual who's like, wait a second, is the story taking place in present day with our Cold War characters and Butcher talking to them, or is it in the World War II era as we see in Season 1 and Season 2 with Caldera, with the Alps? Is that what's happening? I mean, we do have that ground war type mode coming out with the mid-season update that should also further the story a little bit, but right now it's like we have these branching narratives, right? One with the Cold War set of characters, one with our new task forces being set up in the World War II era, all of that taking place before the actual Vanguard campaign, which is weird, and then maybe there's some type of tie-in to the second Modern Warfare and Warzone 2 that we'll end up getting in the next couple of seasons. Now, I figured I'd also mention the fact that when Soap got introduced at the end of Season 6 for Modern Warfare, it was a brief introduction, of course, but it was being said that he was over by Rebirth Island. So maybe this upcoming change to Rebirth is tied into that somehow, and then all of that could tie into the opening events of the Modern Warfare 2 campaign, Warzone 2. Maybe that's what's going on, but like I already said, I get it. It is a bit confusing that we have stories being told at 3 different points in time, right? World War II era, 1984, and then what, present day 2020-ish? I know that's weird, even though they're all connected, it's still a bit all over the place considering Vanguard's post-launch story already started off with 2 different points of time being focused on. It's crazy. So there's always the possibility possibility that Stitch doesn't get brought back up or doesn't make a comeback until the next Black Ops game? And what if the foe is somebody like Menendez? I mean, how cool would that be? I don't think he has any connection to Rebirth, at least not from my understanding, so it's probably not him. But like I mentioned in a video a couple of months ago, I think an opportunity with Year 2 would be to give us a bigger bridge in between the gap of Cold War and Black Ops 2. It would be great if we got some more time with Menendez and his cartel, or some type of extra story that took place before the opening events of Black Ops 2's campaign. That would be fantastic. Would absolutely love to see Woods get captured by Menendez over in Angola. That's something that happened off screen, of course, and I thought it was going to be covered in Season 6 of Cold War, but it wasn't. So maybe that's an opportunity for that this time around, but maybe it's unrelated altogether and we won't see any reference to that until their next Call of Duty. Now, in regards to what changes are coming to Rebirth, though, right now we can speculate. I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is some type of zombies outbreak, or maybe blowing up certain parts of the map, replacing them with new points of interest, or even expanding the map altogether to be even bigger. Lots of possibilities all the way around here, but there were, of course, a lot of rumors a little while back that Hashima Island would be the replacement for Rebirth at some point with this Vanguard Warzone integration. So what if Rebirth does fully get replaced by Hashima? That's not the interpretation that many of us got from today's blog post. It does make it seem like Rebirth is just going to get some significant changes and updates, but what if they don't want to give away that Rebirth is actually going away and being replaced by another small scale map that is Hashima Island? I mean, all in all, when Warzone 2 does release, I'm not really sure what's going to be left behind with Warzone 1, right? What will be left and what will be playable? Will it just be Caldera and Rebirth? Will it be Caldera, some new small-scale map like Hashima, and then maybe bring back Verdansk? I don't know about that one, but I also don't know if it's really possible or if they have enough time to put together another small-scale map on the same scale as Rebirth while they're also simultaneously working on this big new map for Warzone 2 this fall. Now, shout out to Josh Rukul for highlighting what's left in Season 2 for Vanguard. If you take a look at this image he put together, we really only have Rebirth Reinforced and Iron's Trials. All of that is probably tied into the big changes we're going to get to the map this season. And aside from that, I mean, yeah, the Arms Race Ground War mode for multiplayer, the Gamma Truck, that's really it. Nothing else for zombies. There are, of course, a couple of little bundles and an operator skin, but that's really it. So unless there's some big reloaded surprise for Season 2 that brings out a bunch of other content we don't know about, then this could be it, and maybe this is where that Year 2 content comes into play for Cold War to kind of make up for a lack of content that Vanguard is going to get for this mid-season update. That could be the case here, but let me know in the comments what you guys are thinking about the upcoming mid-season updates. Will Rebirth be the focus of it, and then that all ties into this Cold War narrative and Year 2 DLC, or is it going to be an underwhelming Season 2 Reloaded, so to speak, and we have to wait till Season 3 for some actual new content? Now, I always found it fascinating that we ended up getting this high-budget, full-length cutscene of Mason and his crew meeting the Butcher. I feel like that had to have been on purpose, and maybe we'll end up getting some old present-day Butcher added as a skin into Cold War, or that could have even been Activision's safety net. They already projected that Vanguard was going to underperform, and they were like, all right, let's kind of tie Cold War into this a little bit to boost some interest. And then now that interest is at an all-time low with the post-launch story of Vanguard, maybe they're like, okay, let's kind of bring things back a little bit and kind of dive deeper into the Butcher's connection to Mason and his crew. So by doing that, they'll then bring out this new narrative over at Rebirth, maybe reignite the story for Stitch a little bit, or some other story entirely connected into Cold War, and then they'll kind of have that kind of pave the way for the future of Call of Duty and lead the rest of this Vanguard post-launch story. That could have been Activision's safety net. That could have been Activision's way of saying, okay, let's jump ship a little bit and actually focus on something that people actually care about, considering how successful the post-launch season was for Cold War. Let's kind of continue that instead of what looks like a bit of a dead end with Vanguard right now. Now, I'm sure you guys agree, but I think these post-launch stories for MW, Cold War, and Vanguard are the closest we're ever going to get to campaign DLC in a way that's actually profitable. I'm a big fan of having post-launch stories, and I'm really interested in how the narrative is going to look for Modern Warfare 2, because they're going to have to somehow also write a story that lasts, 12 seasons after that? So it's almost like the Modern Warfare 2 campaign could have a definite ending or even a conclusion, but they're going to have to be creative and continue all of that for 12 full full seasons, and hopefully there's quality over quantity with that, where not every season is just a bunch of filler, bunch of random characters nobody cares about, but an actual meaningful story like the one Cold War got. Let's see what happens with that, but I think overall, the post-launch story Cold War told was so strong that we're still feeling the effects of that, even with Vanguard's post-launch season. But that is about it. This has been dkdynamite. Leave all your thoughts down below in the comment section. What are your thoughts on the interesting update regarding Year 2 for Cold War? Could the content be very story-driven, which is why we haven't seen it yet? And what do you think's going to happen over in Rebirth come Season 2 Reloaded, if that even happens? Let me know what you're thinking down below. Will Stitch return? Really hope you've enjoyed, and peace out, everybody.